Hi guys, welcome back to part 2. So in this I carry on with the repairs to the QuickJoy 128, and as you see there was something I missed in the beginning. But anyway, I have decided not to repair that second clock at this stage, although I have found a way I can do it using an Arduino or an ESP32 and a 1.1 inch screen you can get. They're fairly cheap, and it just needs a bit of code, and I can set it up as a clock type thing and rewire it into the buttons, etc. But maybe down the track. It's a display piece more than anything else. It's not something I'm going to use. So guys, anyway, grab yourself a drink, some snacks if you want, and that comfy chair, and let's finish this thing off. Hey guys, back at it again. So I've got it all connected and ready to go. The problem I'm having is keeping these elasticarbon strips, or they call them Z strips. There is another proper name for them. A lot of the early calculators and this sort of stuff had it because it was a cheap way of doing it. The problem you got is they're only mechanically held together, so it's the pressure from the frame pushing on the glass which pushes on the contact, which actually pushes on the contacts on the board. That holds it together. Now there were some later model ones where they made a little frame, but they were a bigger LCD, and some of those were your remote controls and things like that. So getting this back together to get it back on there is a pain in the backside, because every time you put something on, you go to set it on, they fall off, they fall over. So what I've done is I got some more of my foil tape, and I cut a little piece off and I bent it in a 45, rested it next to the glass, made sure I had the connector the right way round to the board, and sat it on there, and to get it to sit properly, and it sits fine. But I can't put the board on top of it because it's going to fall over. So what I did is I got some PVA glue, just normal wood glue, PVA glue, took the top off, got me dental tool, took a dab of it out, put a dot next to this pad, the first, sorry you can't see it, and I don't want to move it because if I do, it's all going to fall over. So what I've done is on the back of this one here, you can see these black pads. What I've done is I put a dab of PVA next to the pad and next to the back of the strip, and I've done the same on this side on the other one that went along here, because this is only single sided, the others are double sided. So what I've done is I put a dab of PVA either side, and I'm just trying that, and I'm going to let it dry, and if it dries it should hold those in place enough for me to get it over, sit it on the board, and then I can at least power the board up and see if the screen works. If the screen doesn't work, all the connectors are here, so I might just have to see if I can work something else out with a different layout, different LCD or something. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just hoping that this will work. In all honesty, it should do, but yeah, I can't guarantee it. This one's fine because this is still, over time with the pressure and with heat, they do stick to the glass. So that one's still on there, and that's what you got to be careful of. A lot of this sort of carry on. Sometimes you find the numbers, they actually stop working, or part of them stop working in that, and it's generally the electrical connection that's got a problem. And sometimes it needs a bit more pressure on the glass to make the connection work better on the strip and on the board. because it can be these being rubberized, they do over time, they do get like little wavy sags in them, so that can happen as well. But anyway, as I thought, I'll just get back to you, and if I can gently move this one into shot, I will. Here it comes. And I think the PVA is helping to hold this in. And as you can see with the little white dots there, that's the PVA on this side, and that's the PVA on that side. And so that's just, PVA will come off. It's an easy enough glue to remove if I need to do this again. And as I said, that's the foil I've put on there, so I mean the PVA will come off when I peel that off if I need to as well. And as I say, that's just the piece of foil I got. I've left the backing on it because I didn't want it to stick to anything, and I just used it as a right angle to put it up next to the glass so it held it on. I might put a dab of PVA on this one just to be safe, and I might do that because I don't want that one coming off and having the same issue. It comes out of the bottle too much, so I just usually pop the lid off, and there's generally PVA inside the lid or around here, and I just take my scalpel, there's generally PVA sitting around the top of the lid or inside the head, and I just take a little dab with this, and I go over and I just, in the corner, I just pop it down in the corner, and I just build up this little bridge between the two, and that just holds it there. The thing is too, PVA goes clear, so you're not going to see it, it's not going to be white. So that one's done as well, and I've got that bridged from that foam. And what I do, I'm using the foam pad because that's in the right place. So I'll PVA to stick to that and to stick to the front, and then that'll keep it where it's got to go. And because this one's going to need a clean, it's got a bit of gunk on the edge of the connector. I've just taken that bit off. There's a couple of little specks, and that's the thing with this stuff, it's got to be so clean when you put it on, or otherwise you're not going to get a very good connection. Use one of the old cotton buds and I'll clean that off. And that's it. So I'll leave those to dry, and then I'll bring you back when we're putting it together and see what happens. Alright guys, so I'll see you soon. Hey guys, well, some good and bad news. Good news is the top one works. That's the, let's get the cover for you. That's the countdown meter with the time set to stop and start. The count up meter, I don't know if it's the board or if it's the LCD, but I'm getting nothing out of it, so yeah. I am looking at, I might try and find out what it does, and I've been looking at it, and I can probably replace it with a 1.14 inch OLED display, and I can, the size of the board in here, I can probably stick in a little wee ESP32 or something inside the case and wire it to the display and program it to do that, and just have the buttons so I can do the settings on the ESP32. The other thing I can do is also, if it becomes an issue, is I could put a second screen in here and run that off the ESP32 as well, because it's more than capable of handling two screens. So I can look at doing that if I need to. I just want to find out what it does. So yeah, this was black for a reason. It's probably lost the crystalline out of the display, or the IC, which is under a pile of black goop, has probably died. But as you can see, I've put all these back in. I pulled them apart, put them all back in, and they're working fine. They're not jamming like they were before, and you can see it's a little bit cleaner than what it was. It's not perfect, but I got a lot of the garbage off it. what I'm going to do is, this looks like it used to be self-adhesive with a tape to this, and someone's had this open before and they have basically contact adhesive stuck it back down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a thin film of glue around the edge, and I've bowed this a little bit so it's not flat, it's actually concaved, and then I'm going to drop this in and put a little bit of weight on it and let it dry, and so that's going to be glued in. So then this base unit screws up underneath it, so that'll push on that and make it all fit fine. So I'm going to do that. I think that's better than the way they had it. Why they did it that way to start with, I have no idea. Why they didn't make this as part of the top in the first place, so that when you unscrewed it everything came out, I don't know. But that's how I'm going to do it. So whether it's right or wrong, I do not know, but that is what I'm going to do. So there's not, I looked at it and there's not enough lip around there to put double-sided tape or anything on. So I'm just going to get some quick dry, probably 5 or 10 minute self-setting glue, and I'll just run a bit around there. I'm not going to use super glue because you can't guarantee that stuff's going to stick or it's going to adhere for very long, so I'm just going to do that. Alright, so I just thought I'd let you know where I'm up to, and if I find out any more information on what this does, I will let you know if I'm going to replace it or not. If not, I'll just leave it as it is and it can stay blank. I mean, this is not a joystick I will probably use. Mind you, I do have a CPC 6128 that I've got to have a look at, and if it needs repairing, repair. So that's another one coming up soon, guys. So that's another one coming up, so we could try it on that and see how it works. But anyway, I will put this aside. I'll find the glue and glue this in. Then I can, as you can see, I've cleaned up the top of that and got most of the glue off. I tried nail polish remover, isopropyl, to take the glue off, and it didn't really work. I found the best way to do it was to use the hot air gun and just for a few seconds just run the heat around it, and then once I finished running the heat around it, then take that away, and then I just got a flat blade and scraped it off, rubbed it across, scraped it off, and then to finish it off I just used one of these little wire cleaning brushes and just gave it a gentle scratch across the top to get any loose stuff off, and wiped it down with a handy towel. The other thing you can use after this is a toothbrush. You can get the old heavy duty toothbrush onto it to clean it up. I used that on this case a bit to clean some of the garbage off it. And so that's all good. I actually like that. Those are working really, really well. I just got the joystick to do when I put it all back together. I've cleaned all the joystick controller and all that where it comes through here, so all the grimes off. I've just got to get some grease, and I'll probably put some lithium. I've got some lithium grease there. I'll probably put some of that around it. And I was just wondering, because it rubs around in here, I might get some of that self-adhesive felt. You get them for putting on the bottoms of chairs and stuff like that to stop them scratching your lino and your timber floors and that. And cutting a thin strip of that and running that around the inside just to give it a bit of padding to go to. I could also get some probably weather strip, self-adhesive weather strip around doors or windows. Put a little thin one around the inside there, and it's just to stop you jamming it and bashing it and causing any issues. And that was the other thing I found, is that piece of the joystick. It's in here. That was that one actually. That piece that was broken off of here. there's actually two. There was another one over this side. Now this was missing when I got it, so this is obviously broken off before, and that's what I was saying. It looks like someone has been inside here, because that part wasn't in here at all. So, and I don't think it would have fallen out through the joystick hole. So someone's had this open, and the cable that goes to the switches up the top, the ribbon cable on one end of the board, it looks like someone's had a go, and I'm going to have to fix it because one of the connectors to one of the switches, the trace has been broken. There's another one there that doesn't look too bad, but it looks like the trace has started to pull on it. I'll fix the other one, then I might put some hot glue over those just to hold them down. But as I say, it does look like someone's been inside here before, probably trying to fix the LCD, and then found out, nah, too hard, put it all back together as best they can, and that was it. But in doing so, they did damage one of these switches, and I'm not sure which one it is, but I want to fix that before I put it back in anyway. Alright, so that's where I'm up to. I will carry on with this. I'll see what I can find out about this other counter, for what it does or what it's for, and I think that's about as much as we can do for now. Alright, so I'll catch you a little bit later when I've decided what I want to do and when I get this a bit more fully assembled. Okay guys, see you shortly. Hey guys, so I'm just going to look at fixing this switch unit up off the main joystick port board, and as I say, this is the one here that's got an issue, and I'll just bring this up and you can see it there, this one here, and the track's broken off and it goes over to here. So the other one that's a bit dodgy is that one, and as I said, it looks like someone's had this apart and had a play with it. As I said, you can see I've cleaned all this up, and that's what the two holes are in this black joystick controller. So those two holes are where these two pins, so those two holes are where these two pins are meant to go through this, and that keeps it aligned so it doesn't move around when you left and right, up and down and that. So it's had a bit of a hard life and broken off. So this is the only one I got. So I'm going to have to see if I can find something about the same size. If not, probably try and pick up a piece of acrylic rod or plastic rod and drill a hole. Well, I don't need to drill a hole through, but a piece of plastic rod, and then I'm probably going to have to try and angle the end so where I glue it back into the other part, the top, because they come down into it, so from the top, so I can glue it on and they can come down and align with these. So that's what I'll have to do with that, and those are the screws for mounting this back in. But yeah, as I said, I just need to do this, and as I was saying, it's somebody's had a good go. These were way longer than what they were meant to be, where they were sticking out of the board, and so I went through and I trimmed them all back, and that's when I noticed that this one wasn't connected and that one's pulling up. So someone's been quite rough with it when they put it back together. I'm going to check all the other connections to make sure they all go to the right places. And what's that? Okay, that's just part of the switch. And just make sure all the others are connecting properly to where they're meant to be. Last thing I want to do is just fix that one, put it back together, and then it still doesn't work. This really needed to be more flexible rather than how hard it is. That's probably causing half the problems with these tracks, and it's pulling them. But anyway, it's only a little bridge, but I'm going to run a wire from there back over to this pin here. That's, I just want to do that to make sure it's making a good contact, rather than just trying to attach it at the end. And it's also quite close to another pin here, one of the earthing pins, I think. So I'll do that, and then have a look at sorting the rest of this out. I'm still in two minds to whether I should replace this cable or not. I have ribbon cable up on the shelf to do it if I need to. But I'll see how I go. It should be okay. Yeah, it should be okay. Alrighty, so I'll do that and then I'll come back to you when I get a bit further along on something else. Alrighty. Hey guys, so yeah, I had to do two repairs on the tracks there. You see one brown and one white wire. The white one was the second one I was sort of thinking may be a little bit funny, and it just wasn't connecting at all. So I bridged that trace and I bridged the other brown one, and they're all working. I metered all the others through on this board and they're all fine. The last thing I'll do is just check the connections, I think, on this ribbon cable to make sure they're all okay. And then after that I think that's fine, and the only other thing to do would be to clean up the baseboard before this goes back in, and put the joystick cable back through and solder it back into the board here. Alrighty, so I will get on with that and do that and get back to you. Alright, see you soon. Okay, so I'm going to repair the one post. I've got to find something for the second one, but what I've done is I found something that'll go through the centre of that, and a bit of wire, and it's just long, a plastic coated wire, and it's just long enough to go through it, and it's a fraction smaller than the hole, not by much, and that's just because I've got a bit in the bottom I can actually put it into, and this is for locating. So I've got that and it fits in there fine. And the other thing I'm going to need is some super glue. This is just your regular old everyday cheap store super glue. And the other thing I'm going to need is some baking soda, and you'll see why I'm going to need that later on. I'm not going to do any baking, but it's going to help us with the repair. So what I need to do is this has all been cleaned, and the other end's all been cleaned up, ready to go. And I usually buy this cheap super glue because you get like 6 or 7 on a card for a couple of dollars. So usually with this stuff, once you open it, you can't really reuse it. It's the sort of thing you got to use within a day, even if you put the cap on it or it goes hard on you. So that's opened. So I'm going to open that up, and what I'm going to do is put a little bit on this end, a little bit in the hole, because what I want to do is poke that wire down, and what I can do is trim the wire off later if it won't come out, that is. And that goes down there on there like that, and so that piece of wire is going to hold that straight, so and in that hole, in that right angle, so it can go off. And usually super glue only takes a couple of minutes to go off. I think 2 to 5 minutes or something like that. So drop on there. Yeah, so they say, but we will find out. Starting to adhere now as we go. So now a lot of people will think, yep, that's all good, I don't need to do any more to that. But what I do is when I'm doing these sorts of repairs, and even when I'm doing them inside of laptops and things like that, I'm now going to put a little bit of super glue on the base and up the sides of this pin. Now I don't want to go too high because this has got to go through that piece on the bottom. Now get a little bit of baking soda and just gently sprinkle it over the top. Okay, and then what I can do is then just tap that off. Now what you'll find is that super glue has gone instantly hard. And this is a way of repairing plastic that can't be seen. And so what I'm going to do is do a bit more around this side, and I may actually feather it out and take it a little bit further around on here. And doing it this way, it makes it so hard. You can actually drill it and actually screw into it. I saw it some years ago with a chappie who was repairing a snow machine, and he was talking about it, and I thought, oh, that's worth looking at and giving it a try. And I did, and yeah, it really works. So, I mean, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, guys. You can just get some and have a play for yourself and see how it goes. But I can guarantee you, it was a game changer, and it always has been. So now that is very, very rigid now. I'm wiggling that with my fingers. I'm not being forceful with it. I'm just wiggling it because the glue inside has still got to set. Now you can't really see it here, but I've actually feathered it out a bit, like lava flowed it out onto the plastic. And I've got to do it around the back here because it's not very much of it around the back. But I don't want it to go mad, so I'm going to hold it up on a bit of an angle. And put some more up and around here. Then I'll get me baking soda. And the thing is, baking soda is not expensive either, guys. It's like about, if you buy it in bulk from the dairy or the grocery store or something, it's only like about $3 or $4, 500 grams. I mean, that's probably only a couple of grams in there, and they're the big jars of it, so it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And what I generally do is just get a soft brush. I just have to find one, which I don't have at this stage, and generally just give that a brush down and take any loose baking soda out of it, so it's not going to cause an issue later on. Now if we gently twist this, it might come out. No, it's not. So it's obviously glued in there. That's fine. It was a piece of wire that I was going to sacrifice anyway, so that's fine. That's a good repair, and I'll bring it up so you can actually see that a bit closer. I don't know how good you're going to get it. I'll try and put some light up there for you. So that should do what we want it to do. I mean, if you had a hot, don't use your soldering iron, but if you had a hot knife or something, you could have gone through and done it plastic to plastic and melted it in a bit more. Sometimes that works. Sometimes I find it makes it weaker. So let's get out of your eyes. Sometimes I find it makes it a lot weaker, so I don't bother doing that now. Not with these small ones. If it's a big piece of plastic, I do. And I mean, when I'm putting a brand new piece in, I'll be doing very much the same sort of thing. It'll just be, I'll just have to get it to try and fit in there as best as I can. Piece of wire down the middle. If I could get a bit of plastic that would fit inside that would be better. And I think if we have something with a hole in it, it's so you can line it up better. Now I just did a quick coat over the top of that with a little bit more super glue, and I'll just leave that overnight to set, and then I can carry on with it later on. And that's it, and that's how easy it is to do. You just don't want to rush it. The more you rush it, the easier it is it's going to be to break, because you need to leave it to set. Okay, so that's that bit done. I need to do that to reassemble it, but I've also, as I say, I've got to find a bit of plastic. I mean, it's easy to get the calipers on there to find out exactly what size that is to get the right width. I don't think it's overly important. It's just a locator. So something around that size or close to it should be all I'd need. And I can't see anything really close to me at this stage, so I'll have to have a look tomorrow and see what I can find. Alright guys, so that's it for now, and I'll get back to you when I find a piece, put it in, and then finish assembling this. And as I said, I've still got to have a look and see what the other LCD was for, what it was used for, if it's going to be anything worth repairing or not. So I'll catch you then. Hey guys, back here again. So I managed to find something to replace this missing pin on the base here, and I've done exactly the same as this one. I've used the super glue and some baking soda and built it up and bridged it, and it is very strong. It is very strong in there, and I've flared it out quite a long way because this one I didn't have it here. This is a little bit smaller than that, which will be fine. It's only a locator, and so that to me feels really good. I've also glued this in from the other side, so that's fine. So now I've just got to look at putting everything back together and screwing it all back up. What I'm doing is I'm still looking at fixing that second LCD screen. I've only just gotten the box pictures where I could see everything, and the back of it has all the instructions on what the clocks and that do. So what I'm going to do is I will have a look at those and see if it's worthwhile building one. I can get a 1.1 inch OLED LCD display, and I can run that off an ESP32 or something like that, a Nano or something like that, just to give me what that does. And I can use the switches that were on the board and just rewire them to the pins on the Nano or the ESP32. So that's where I'm up to, guys. So I'm going to get this all back together and finish it all up, and then we'll just finish up this piece of it and hopefully be done for now. Alright, I'll be back soon. Alright, so there we go, all back together. As I did say, this bottom timer is not working at this stage, and that's because the LCD is, or the circuit board IC, the one that's covered in that black goop, could be faulty, or someone has damaged it, as we saw, and I repaired a few things. But it's looking a lot nicer, nice and positive on all the connections. Cleaned up the cable. Now this is for Commodore, Atari, Spectrum, that type of PC, and also it's switchable on here. You can turn it on to CPC mode for the Amstrads, and that's something you can try at a later date. But I've not had one of these before, and as I said, it's a Spectrum video joystick. It was in the point where they changed names from Quick Shot to Quick Joy, which was the thing that Bondwell did after they took over Spectra Video, and that's why it's got Quick Joy on the bottom of it rather than Quick Shot. And this was in the time when they went from standard joysticks to flight simulator style joysticks and that, and it was the in thing at the time. And that mod I've done works really well. It stops us from spinning around, and it's still full movement there as well, which is good. Alright, so that's the SV MegaJoy 128. There is some... So guys, there we go. That's the Spectra Video SV128 Quick Joy I've got a bit more gear I'm going to have to go through and check and make sure it's working properly. So you may see them come up from time to time. I am also looking at starting a sister channel to this, or playlist I should say, of all the Spectra video hardware I have. And if it's not working, we'll look at it and see if we can get it up and running. I just sort of thought there's a lot of lists and pictures of the hardware, not so much a look at them working, what they're for and what they can do. So I thought that would be kind of cool. So if you want to have a look at that, let me know, and I'm going to start recording these videos for that separate folder, and they will come out in announcements like these ones do. So just keep an eye out for them. It may take me a month or so to get enough in line to do it, and it will also give me a break from having to do repair videos all the time, which I find summer is coming up. We're like in the last week of winter, so we're going to start into spring. It's a bit wetter, but it starts warming up, so I've got a lot of stuff outside to do this year, guys. Okay, so I'll call this one here, and that's a good fix. And as I say, I'm still thinking about repairing that LCD or not, but as I said, it's only for display more so than anything else, and they were a gimmick. One was a countdown timer when you were playing games, so you had a certain amount of time to do the game or finish the level or something like that, and the other one's a count up timer and how long it took you. So they were gimmicky sort of things, so yeah, it doesn't anyway affect the joystick. So guys, that's the end of this one, and as I say, have a great day, have a great week, and until next time, ciao.